Meanwhile, the Secretary General from UNCTAD is confident that the development of the coming era must be based on sustainability, while the Secretary General of ASEAN sees ASEAN's huge significance to the rest of the world in the coming era.
How can we make the future something which is the present and realizable? This is a key. We may need to convince the rest of the world, and particularly you who are our investors and potential investors, about the prospects for Thailand, but we have to convince our own people in a way that they can help to support what BOI has been doing. And this is one of the things that we need to be able not to make statements just to be convincing. But we need to make sure that the urgency of the projects, of the programs to deal with floods prevention are executed in the way that is expected of this Thai government. And I'm sure that with people like the Deputy Prime Minister Kitirat and Dr. Virapong around, we will be seeing a real serious approach to these issues. Because the first time Thailand suffered from this huge floods, massive floods, it could be called devastating, really devastating. But the second time it will become a real perfect disaster. It will be an unmitigated disaster that cannot be allowed to happen. And this cannot be convincing by just talking about the approaches alone. But the actions, and it was the Deputy Prime Minister himself who said that actions speak louder than words, and I take him at his words that he would take actions. At UNCTAD, we call this point for Thailand the point of inflection. This is a point of inflection for Thailand. That something must happen, something must change, otherwise we'll be caught in this so-called middle income trap forever. The first part, which is very important for us to know, is that recovery is just partial at the moment. And so at the moment, the global volume for international trade has already surpassed the peak volume before the crisis took hold in 2008, but not so with investment. Investment flows, global level, actually peaked in 2007 at 2.1 trillion US dollars. 2.1 trillion US dollars in 2007. And now, last year, 2011, we saw FDIs on a global basis reaching only 1.4 trillion, compared to 2.1 trillion a few years ago. So with investment, recovery process is still work in progress. Whether this year, the anticipation is that we may be growing in terms of FDI flows, but maybe reaching only 1.5 or 1.6. And looking at the situation around the world these days, 1.6 is really something which I don't think we can really achieve in 2012. So again, situation on investment is really a difficult one. The activities in merger and acquisitions have actually petered out. The traditional donors, traditional investors are not in the mood to expand their investment. So most of the new investment are coming from areas that are not known as the traditional areas. They are coming from countries that are still developing countries, emerging countries, like China, like India, like Brazil, like Malaysia, like Thailand. And these are countries which actually are now accounting for more than 50% of global growth. Because while the rest of the world, advanced economy, might be growing at the rate of 2% on average, in Europe it will be close to 0% growth. At the moment, our prediction is about 0.2% in Europe. United States may be growing around 2%, a little bit more than 2%. But emerging countries will be growing at an average rate of 6 to 6.5% for 2012. So actually, the scenario for investment patterns also is changing. And so as we are trying to come to grip with our own issues in Thailand as to how to deal with the future of investment, international investment, domestic investment in Thailand, we have to take into account all these perspectives of the nascent recovery in the investment area, the kind of assertive policies of governments around the world vis-a-vis new investment, the new requirements for investment to be looking at the corporate social responsibility, the CSR principles that will have to be adopted. They all have to take into account also that now the new geography of investment patterns has changed. And so we have to work more with non-traditional investors. These are investors who come from emerging countries. These are investors who are not private sector owned. These are investors that may be state-owned. They may be sovereign wealth funds. So there are all kinds of diverse trends in the international global investment at the moment that Thailand will have to cope with. And therefore, I put this in perspective with the efforts of Board of Investment to be looking at the new picture for Thailand to move forward in the next 5 years. My last word is that much as we can laud the effort of the Board of Investment to come up with these 5-year plans, I do wish and hope that, particularly with the manpower requirements that could be actually read into this plan, that people will take care that these are being translated into terms of action, not by the Board of Investment itself, but by all the supporting agencies of the government, which have to be as good as their words. If they promise things to the investors, they have to come up with that. And for me, the investors who've been around with us through thick and thin in the last 10, 20, 30, 50 years, some of them has been with us for 50 years, they can never be left alone, can never be ignored. And the Thais are known to be actually cherishing their old friends. So I do hope that whatever policies that the Thai government practice, seeking new venues, new areas, they should not forget their old friends.
That if we enhance the quality and the capability of our resources, in this case, just in one area, the proficiency in the English language, the competitiveness of the Thai private sector tomorrow is going to increase more than 50%. Competitiveness of any country is the ability to communicate. Yes, ASEAN has been rather attractive. Yes, in spite of the low growth in the global FDI, according to Dr. Supachai, in ASEAN, from 2009 to 2010, we more than double our foreign direct investment. From 37 billion in 2009, the lowest year, to 78 billion US dollars into 10 countries of ASEAN, mostly to Singapore and Malaysia, of course. But the most interesting thing is, out of that 78 billion US dollars, 68 to 80 to 70% has gone into the service sector, into education, into health, into tourism, into construction, into telecommunication, into logistics. Meaning what? Meaning the ASEAN population is growing, and the middle class is growing, and the purchasing power is growing. More people in ASEAN are more conscious of quality of life. So this is a market that is growing, expanding. I want to see the private sector, the medium, the small size enterprises, cross borders to invest in the rest of the ASEAN countries. Because that's the only way we can create jobs, only way we can create more income. That's the only way we can help each other grow. It has to be an exercise of confidence projection. We are becoming a new center of growth. We happen to be in the middle of it, I mean ASEAN as a whole. But we have to consolidate. We have to connect. We have to make sure that our infrastructure connect us together so that we can move goods, so that we can move people, so that our consumers can access to the services without even having to move. If we want to grow, if we want to compete, if we want to participate in the global landscape, we must make adjustments. Every economy, every country must learn to speak the language of the market. You cannot despise profit. You must make everything conducive and ready and enabling to attract foreign investment. Then in this world of competition, the only way to succeed is to be able to integrate effectively and move into the future together.
Follow Towards 2015 every Wednesday and Thursday from 10:30 to 11 p.m. on ASEAN TV. And you can also follow us online via Facebook only on ASEAN TV.